Hello, welcome to Link Live, our new Facebook live stream logo. Hope you like it. My name is Marina Mayer. I'm the editor-in-chief of Food Logistics and Supply and Demand Chain Executive. And I'm here with my two beautiful, lovely editors.
Hi, I'm Brielle Jekyll. I'm the associate editor.
And I'm
why are you laughing? Oh my God, that was hilarious.
And I'm McKenna Morales, and I'm the web editor. I'm sorry.
Sorry, everybody. We had a little meeting before this, and so sometimes we feed off of each other's goals.
Right when you said I'm with my editor, it's just Brielle. I just saw Brielle out of the corner of my eye. Just go, hey.
Yeah, that was great. It's a good day. Yep.
Happy Wednesday.
Well, at least I have for our next Instagram post.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody's been following us on Instagram, because these two ladies, not me, have been very busy on IG, as the kids call it these days. It's National Safety Month, and so today we are talking about safety in the supply chain, whether it be worker safety, product safety, everything with this pandemic. Everybody's returning to work, so safety obviously is a big topic. It's equipment safety. So there's so many things that kind of encompass the term safety. And we kind of been doing some research on our websites on some statistics and stuff that we can kind of present. Speaking of safety, the Propane Council that we're doing a project with for a perk for our July food logistics issue. They're going to be covering forklift safety as well. So keep an eye out for that. But I know that Brielle came up with some good statistics that she found on our website to kind of talk about, where safety is going, what the current state is, and what companies can be doing better at. And if you're watching, feel free to comment on our Facebook live streams so that we can address any questions or add you to the conversation. So I'll kick it over to you, Brielle.
Yeah, of course, we really want to hear from everyone, hear your thoughts and opinions on the subject. But yeah, so, in looking through some of the stuff we have on our website, we had a expert column back in March from Roy Pelkey, who is the vice president of Qualitrol. Anyway, he detailed tons of stuff that's really important in worker safety in the warehouse and logistics in the supply chain, because obviously that's been an issue since the beginning of the supply chain. And forklifts are obviously very common in warehouses, and they're kind of the majority of where accidents can happen. So he details that actually 95,000 injuries and 100 deaths occur each year just from forklifts. So it is really, really important to pay attention to, best practices. Obviously, training is a huge source of that. Or a huge source of staying safe, remaining alert. This is not a job that you can do haphazardly. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing and pay attention to your surroundings and, what's around you. And again, investing in the right safety gear is extremely important, of course. Yeah, and then also, I know, McKenna, you have tons of info on slips, falls, and trips, because I know that accounts for 15% of accidental deaths in warehouses. And that's, another huge area that's important for safety.
Yeah, and so when you talked about the important gear that you need for safety, it's not just like the hard hats or the seat belts or the harnesses, it's also shoes. And clumsy person, and so shoes are very important, especially in a warehouse. You need something with traction, and so you need the appropriate shoes in order to wear. And just like think as if you're back working your part-time job while you were in school, when you were a waiter, or you worked in your school cafeteria, and they always told you got to have non-slip shoes, because you'll fall down and nobody wants that. Right. But then you also got to think about insoles too, because you're on your feet all day. And I think people take that for granted a lot. And if you're working on hard concrete in a warehouse all day long, that's going to take a lot of wear and tear on your knees, on your feet, on your overall well-being as a person. We have all been there. We've all had a job where the building wasn't the greatest. So invest in some good shoes. But then it's also like really important to note that even as you get more comfortable with the job, you're going to start to take looser ends with it. And so like, don't jump around, like jump from balance or from the trucks, because I see people do that all the time. And again, if you're landing really hard on your knees, you're just going to buckle eventually. And we're all getting older and we're just going to crumble.
Well, even like basic stuff, like, keep an eye, like, I've been in a lot of food manufacturing facilities and toured them. And, you have to climb ladders to look into, onto a conveyor that's, higher up. You have to walk through things and under things. And so you bring up some good points. And now even with everything going on with the pandemic, things like different kinds of gloves, especially if you're handling food or, even temperature control stuff, it's just any of that stuff, it's not just the basic rubber gloves. It's also no slip gloves, because you don't want to be carrying something and then it drop and you break your foot or something breaks, or so there's a lot of like different facets to the word safety these days. It's not just, worker safety. It's not just the individual categories. There's many layers to it as it goes. And then there's also, just regular driver safety. And I was doing some interviews for our upcoming transportation chain video series. And one of the things we talk about is safety for these truck drivers, whether it be just different things that they have put inside the bed of the car or the bed of the truck so stuff doesn't close on things, whether it's safety for doors, depending on where they're at. It's just all kinds of things just to protect the people that are moving product from point A to point B in the supply chain. And I think that that's huge. Forklifts are just part of the equation because those go up and down and they swivel and, they move a lot more, but we're seeing a lot more technologies in that area.
Technology is a huge part of worker safety. I mean, we talk about automation a lot, but it's because it's a big part of where the supply chain is hopefully going. Some people obviously are really diving into automation a lot more than others, but if it's used properly and people are trained properly and it's integrated, in a really well way, then it can really, really help with worker safety. And then same thing, like you were saying with technology in general, just the greater we, I guess, invent solutions and, manufacture your things that can keep people safe. I mean, obviously just your personal vehicle today is 10 times safer than it was just a few years ago, because they're really coming out with great technologies to help that. And it's important that companies are investing in that for their workers as well, in the warehouses and in logistics.
And even just overall knowledge about your equipment. Important. And I know that some warehouses, they have quizzes and training before people are allowed to get on certain equipment. And I think that's really important, because if you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt yourself, you can hurt others, you can hurt products, and nobody wants to receive that call.
Right. And like you said, training is a huge part of it. And so making sure that everyone knows the correct procedure to follow is absolute key. If some people one worker's following a different procedure than another, that can be a really big problem. And it can, cause safety issues. And then additionally, you have to make sure that your equipment is up to date. You don't want to like go over, too long for, making sure that your equipment is maintained and healthy, because, it can break and something can happen. Another thing is also, you don't want to overwork your employees. I know obviously right now that's like a critical issue as everyone's understaffed, and before we've had, a driver shortage. So it's really important to make sure that, people have a good schedule. that is effective to make sure that nobody's being overworked. But I find it also ergonomics is also a very interesting point in worker safety, because it's not exactly like, you don't think about it as much because it's not like an incident where all of a sudden somebody is critically endangered. It's just, doing the same job over and over and over again can really mess with your body. And then over time, before you know it, your joints are wearing out and you're having major health problems. So I think it was really interesting. One time I visited the cast makers of Jack Daniels, and they in Louisville, Kentucky, and they are extremely focused on that. And I thought that was great. So they have a system in place where you're not at the same job for more than a certain amount of hours. So once you're done there, you move to another, and then you also have to, I think they change positions to make sure that you're not just continually, doing this motion for 8 hours a day, every day, because that's exactly how you get hurt.
Right. And that's what automation is there for, to prevent these kinds of injuries as well. Because I can imagine just doing like the same thing over and over again, and you could tear like a rotator cuff eventually. And it's just, it's so painful. And so I think companies are really taking note of that, and they want their employees to be healthy and safe. So they're implementing automation that way. And then something else that I've also noticed, and it kind of relates to safety, but a lot of companies have started taking note of people's mental health. And have started offering mental health services within their facilities as well, because we all know that when you're down in the dumps, if you're not feeling the best mentally, you're not going to perform the best physically, and that also create some accidents that could have been easily prevented if you were in the right headspace as well.
And I think that that's key now, especially with everything going on. Everybody to some degree is bothered by everything that's going on with the pandemic, and whether it may not directly affect each of us in a different way, we're still feeling it, and feeling it for people who are going through it, whether that's a loss of a job or whether they are sick or know somebody who's sick. And so the mental health is, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something I was thinking of. It's important, because if your people are not in the right headspace to do what they are supposed to do, then something messes up, they mess up, and then that's how people get hurt, and that's how things happen, and it's not intentional, but the goal is to, prevent those accidents. It's more of an accident prevention method than anything. And, you brought up automation, and that's also the same thing, I guess, with robotics. Robotics, are being implemented more. I know McKenna wrote that article for, I think it was supply and demand chain. Am I completely off?
I think it was both. SEC had AGVs.
Yes, and about how robotics are being implemented not to replace humans, but to kind of help out with more the ergonomics of a line. And I think that that's key, because, we have to welcome all of this automation, because it is designed to help make our jobs easier and our lives easier. It's not just to produce data in a more, efficient way. It's also designed to help us. And we have to welcome that, in all facets of the industry. And so, safety has so many elements to it that, it's just funny how things have completely changed.
Yeah, and it's more than even just, obviously every company wants to take care of, make sure their employees are safe. We're all human, and people care about other people. We all have empathy. But if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it all, it's also important for your bottom line. You want to invest in good workers that know what they're doing, that can efficiently get the job done. And you don't want them burning out, even mentally. You don't want them burning out mentally. You don't want them burning out physically. And then if an incident happens, that's going to set you back. In addition, so it's really important in all aspects of the job.
Right. And even just when we were discussing what topic we should talk about this week, and we decided on safety, we all thought of different aspects.
Right.
Just safety is such a big deal to everyone because we all know somebody that's in a warehouse or on the road, and we just want them to be safe. We don't ever want to be on the receiving end of a call.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just looking at the National, Safety Council. Obviously they promote National Safety Month, and there's just, mental health is one of their topics, or ergonomics, building a safety culture, and driving. And it's not so much just, the truck driving. It's, there's an influx of delivery drivers now that are for, the Ubers and that are literally filling in and bringing direct to consumer. And we have to think of those people too, and we have to think of how the dynamics of the industry has changed. And so people have been playing catch up, and they're playing catch up in a different format. Now they're doing their job differently, and they're targeting different customers in a different way. And that some point can just really wreck your brain, because you're just like, what am I doing? And I think that's key. So it's not just the truckers, it's driving all encompass. It's everybody that's involved in the supply chain. You gotta make sure that they're safe, that the equipment they're using is safe, that, everything beyond that is safe. And obviously the product, if you're producing food or medication, obviously you want that to be safe. You want the cars that they're producing to be safe, so people don't, get hurt when driving a car. So there's so many different elements to the safety topic. So it's just interesting.
I know that we don't have an industry expert or a safety expert with us today, but how proactive do you guys think companies should be instead of reactive when it comes to a safety incident?
I mean, it's always good to be proactive in any element of a business, regardless if it's safety or if it's anything else, preventing natural disasters or whatever the case is. Sometimes when you're reactive, sometimes it's too late. The damage has been done, depending on what it is. So, I think safety should definitely be something we talk more about. And, we definitely want to get some safety experts on board. If you can, contribute some columns for us, or even come on an upcoming L.I.N.K Live, because it's a discussion that needs to be continued, brought to the top. I mean, it's up there with sustainability. It's up there with, like you said, McKenna, it's protecting the bottom line. Anything that's protecting your bottom line has to be in your top 5 list.
And I think even now, I mean, it just goes to show you now more than ever. I mean, the coronavirus really exposed a lot of things, because, we talk about how it's stressing the supply chain. And so you think about like, oh, the industry, but what it comes down to, it's literally stressing those people who are on the front lines working. I mean, they're literally stressed out. They're sick, they're overworked, or they're, I guess, trying to keep up, it's an important issue.
Yeah.
And even the pandemic made people realize that maybe their working conditions weren't the safest too, because of how easily it spread. Look at the meat warehouses in Wisconsin, like hundreds of butchers and meat warehouse workers got so sick because of the coronavirus, because it just spread all throughout the plant.
Right. Well, and I think that's the same with even grocery stores. I mean, we've seen local grocery stores just kind of shut down for a day for cleaning because one of their workers, tested positive. And, it's just, it happens, but it does make you rethink how you act as a human to maintain safety, and health is part of that. You want to, if you're safe, then you're also healthy. So, so to speak. So, yeah, it really is eye-opening, and definitely should be something we should address in the future. So anybody listening, feel free to step forward. And if there's other topics that we should be addressing, I know we did some outreach earlier in the week on social media, and did get some folks to chime in and say, hey, we want to learn more about this, and we want to learn more about this. And so we're always open to topics. We're always open to guest speakers, depending on the topic. And so, definitely feel free to reach out, look for, upcoming issues as we talk more about automation, robotics, safety, etc. And when you're on our websites, foodlogistics.com and stcexec.com, be sure to check out our new Supply Chain Network Summit because we have some great sessions coming up. And while they don't specifically talk about safety, our first session on June 30th is on supply chain threats, which goes with safety. So, so make sure you go on and check that out and register, sign up, because it's an all-day event of different speakers, and I'm very excited about it. And we also have some other webinars lined up. I know we have some tomorrow and some next week, so make sure you look there. What am I missing, ladies?
The Women in Supply Chain Award.
Yes.
And you can submit to that today. You can find information on stcexec.com.
What else? Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram.
We have an Instagram now.
These ladies have been very busy on Instagram. I love it. So make sure you keep an eye on that. And once again, thank you for listening to L.I.N.K Live.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.